Hello everyone, my name is Srikanth. Today we are going to learn about how to create custom rollup summaries using Apex triggers. I have already made a video on Apex trigger where I have covered basics of Apex triggers, what are the events that will be used and how to choose the event with real-time scenarios and some entry questions as well. Do watch it in case of any questions on basics of Apex trigger. By end of this video, you will be able to understand how to create rollup summaries using Apex triggers. And you will also understand the alternative ways to create custom rollup summary fields in Salesforce. First things first, what is rollup summary? Rollup summary summarizes a value from child records and display that value in parent record. Let's see that with an example. So if you see here, we have two different objects. One is student object, second one is subject object. Student is a parent and subject is a child. So for one student record, we can have multiple subject records. Subject 1, subject 2, subject 3 and subject 4. Now if we want to calculate total number of subjects on student records, let's say if you open student record and if you want to see total number of subjects, we can create a field called total subjects and which will summarize total number of subjects here. In the same way, if you want to calculate sum of all marks, in here we have subject 1 general physics 90, for chemistry he or she got 90 and thermonuclear astrophysics got 40 marks, and for the fourth subject calculus he or she got 90 marks. So if you want to calculate all sum of records and display that in the student record, we can use rollup summary field, which will calculate 90 plus 90 plus 40 plus 90, which is 310. In the same way, if you want to calculate the maximum number of marks that this person got on all his subjects, then you can create a rollup summary field which will find the maximum of all marks. In the same way, minimum marks, which is 40 out of all subjects. In summary, rollup summary fields will calculate count of all child records or sum of a given numeric field. In this case, marks. It's a numeric field, right? In the same way, maximum of a numeric field and minimum of any numeric field. It can be marks or it can be amount, it can be age, etc. etc. In summary, we can calculate count of child records, sum of a particular numeric field on the child records, and minimum of a particular field on a child records, and maximum of a particular numeric field on a child records. And we can also put a filter while creating the summary records. Example, get or count only the child records which are having the amount greater than $1,000. In this example, if you want to calculate the total subjects which are having the marks greater than 50, you can put a condition like that. Then what happens is total subjects will be 3. Why? Because this particular subject, subject 3 will be excluded there because the marks is less than 50. So in this case, it will display total subjects is equal to 3. In the same way, you can put conditions on sum of all marks saying that count sum of all marks where marks greater than 50 and so on. However, rollup summary fields can be created on object which are having master detail relationship with its child object. And it cannot be created on lookup relationship object. Let's say object A and object B are related with lookup. We cannot create rollup summary fields on object A. And it also can be created on standard objects like account for opportunities. And on opportunity, we can create it for opportunity products. Which means on account, you can create a rollup summary fields to calculate the count or sum or max or minimum of any of those fields on opportunity. Same way with opportunity products. In here, account is the parent and opportunity is the child. Same way here, opportunity is the parent, opportunity products is the child. Hey, hi QBoy. For people who doesn't know him, his name is QBoy. He always interrupts in the video and come up with some kind of questions. Hey, hi everyone. I have a problem here. I want to display value on account record which shows total number of contacts that are having phone numbers. So this is very much similar to a rollup summary field that he's asking for. However, Salesforce doesn't allow us to create rollup summary fields on account and contact objects. It allows only on master detail relationship object. Like we have discussed, rollup summaries can be created on object where object A and object B are connected with master detail relationship. Aren't account and contact not a master detail relationship? Simple answer is no, a big no. This is basically an interview question. Account and contact are not master detail relationship. So if someone asks whether we can create a rollup summary field on account to find total number of contacts or sum of so and so field on contacts, no, it cannot be done because account and contact are not master detail, not a lookup also. It's a special relationship, which means let's say if account gets deleted, contacts get deleted which are associated with that account, which is a master detail property, right? So as per the master detail relationship, if an object A records are deleted, its associated object B records will get deleted, which is a master detail property. And any contact can be created without being associated with any account. which is a lookup relationship property. So if it is a master detail, you cannot create a child record without it being associated with a parent record. But in here, contact can be created without being associated with an account, right? Which is a lookup property. So in here, if you see, account and contact are sharing both master detail property and lookup relationship property. So I cannot call it as a master detail or lookup. It's basically a special relationship property. And the final conclusion here is Salesforce is not allowing us to create roll-up summary fields on account object for contacts. That should be our takeaway point here. If that is the case, how I am gonna achieve roll-up summary field on account object for contact records? Don't worry, my child. Salesforce always gives options to resolve if it's not possible with standard feature. In this case, there is no roll-up summary field that can be created on account object for contact records. So here are two ways to solve this requirement. One is record triggered flow, which is a recommended option. We also have Apex triggers, which will cost you coding and maintenance. I have already made a video on how to create custom roll-up summaries using record triggered flow. Okay, this is a recommended option because that's a standard feature. However, we'll see how to do that, how to create these custom roll-up summaries using Apex triggers in this video. Let's begin. Let's understand the implementation here. So we have account object, right? We'll create a custom field called number of contacts to find the total number of contacts. By the time account is created or account X is created, there will not be any contacts. So we really don't need to update the value on number of contacts field. However, whenever a contact is created, in this case, contact 1 is created, we need to update this value to total number of contacts is equal to 1 on this particular account record. In the same way, whenever contact 2 is created, the value has to be updated again, saying that number of contacts has to be 2 now on account record. In the same case, whenever contact 3 is created, the number of contacts has to be updated with the value 3. If you see, whenever contact is getting created, whenever there is a DML operation, whenever there is an insertion is happening on contact record, then we are updating the value. So Cuboid, tell me what is the conclusion here? I will answer this. Whenever contact getting inserted, we need to increment the value on account object on number of contacts fields. Hence, we need to write our logic in contact trigger on insert operation. Exactly. So we need to write our contact trigger on insert operation. But the question here is whether it is before insert or after insert. So now we have a thumb rule to decide whether it is before or after. So if we need to update or pre-populate any field on the same record or to fire an event validating that record, then we need to go ahead with before event. In any other case, we need to jump to after event. In our scenario, whenever contact is getting inserted, we are trying to update the or like increment the count on account record. Account record is another record. As it is another record, either of these two conditions are not matching. Hence, we need to go ahead with after event. So the conclusion would be whenever contact is getting inserted, we will write our contact trigger because whenever contact is getting inserted itself, we are actually need to do some action, right? So that's the reason we are writing on contact trigger. So whenever contact is getting inserted, after that insertion, we are trying to update the number of contacts field on account record. That's the reason we need to choose after insert event. So we need to write our trigger on contact and the event would be after insert. Theory part is done. Let's do the practicals. So this is a brand new on people who wants to practice along with me. You can follow the steps. So let us create the number of contacts field on account first so that we will populate it. So click on account and then create a new field called number of contacts. Click on new again and scroll down, take a number field, click on next and give the label as number of contacts and then click on next and have these values default and then click on next and let this default values to be there again and click on next. So we have created number of contacts field on account. Okay, now we need to write our logic in trigger to populate it. So before we are going to write the trigger, let's see how the field is looking like in our account page. So click on account and then if I open any of the existing account, it should display that number of contacts field. Yeah, you see this is the number of contacts field. Let's write our trigger now. So as per our previous conclusion, we need to write trigger on contact. Why? Because whenever a contact is getting inserted, we need to update this number of contacts field value, right? As per the current scenario, the operation would be insert and then event would be after. So on after insert event, we need to write our contact trigger. Let's do that. So how to write a trigger? So click on this setup and then click developer console. So this is where you should be writing your Apex trigger. And then click on file, new, and then Apex trigger. Here you need to give your trigger name. So I will be giving the name as contact trigger. You can give any name you want. And then as object would be contact. Scroll down to contact and click submit. So this trigger will be automatically created with this default syntax. If you see trigger contact trigger, this is the name that we have given on contact object. This is the default syntax. Okay. However, it has also provided the event name before insert. However, we need to write our logic in after insert. So take out this before insert and you need to write your event name here after insert. Okay. So if you write after insert here, Salesforce will execute this trigger, or if Salesforce will execute trigger on after the insert of the record. Okay. Now what I would do is I need to write one if condition here. So trigger dot is after and trigger dot is insert. So let's say your event is after insert. This is how you need to write your context variable. These context variables will be assigned by Salesforce. If it is in after and if it is an insert event, then both of these will get true. Hence, after the record is inserted, if you write any of your logic, that will execute accordingly. I have explained this more clearly in my previous video where I have covered complete basics of trigger. Okay, you can look into that. So whenever if it is an after insert event, we need to write our logic. So what is our logic? So whenever a contact is inserted, we need to update the account number of contacts field, right? So to do that, we need to find the accounts. So we can do that by using this. So we have one more context variable, which is, so let's write a for loop first. Trigger not new. Okay. So basically trigger.new is the list of records which are getting inserted from user interface or from data loader. Let's say you inserted a record from user interface. This trigger.new will contain that record. This is also will be assigned by Salesforce, and this is also called as context variable. If you are inserting 10 records or 1000 records from data loader or workbench, those records also will be stored in trigger.new. As we need to follow the bulkification, we are writing the code in this way. Okay. So I have explained this clearly in my previous video about bulkification. You can look into that. So now we need to find the account IDs. So we'll put those account IDs in one set. So we'll create this empty set now, ACC IDs, and new set, and we'll populate the account ID set with the contacts account ID. So ACC IDs dot add con.account ID. Every contact will be having account reference, right? If there is any. So that account ID, we are putting that into a set. Okay. So by using this, we are trying to find the account ID of that contact that got inserted. By finding that account ID only, we can find that record and then update the number of contacts. That's the idea here. Okay. Now what we will do is we'll write a query on account object to find the accounts which are matching with the account IDs of that particular contacts. So let's write a query. List of account ACCs of related contact. Okay. Now we'll write our query. So select ID comma API name of that number of contacts field. Okay. So I remember the API name. So hence I'm giving that. And from account where, so ID in. So this is how you can get the account IDs with a set or a list. Okay. So we can just do like this. So with this query, we are trying to get the accounts which are matching with the account ID of that contact ID that we inserted. Okay. So let's say you have queried a contact, the related account will be queried in this account. Okay. This is the query. Now what we will do is we'll write a subquery again. This is how you need to write a subquery. Subqueries are something like a parent object can also query the child object records also. Something like this. ID from contacts. Okay, contacts is a standard name that has given by Salesforce if it is being referred in a subquery. Okay, so by using this query, what happens is this query will fetch all the accounts matching with this condition, and it will also fetch all its child records, all its child contacts. Okay, so let's say we are inserting a contact of a related account. This query will get that account and its contacts also. Now from here it is really easy now. So we found the account name and the other contacts or all the contacts of that account. Now it is very easy to update our number of contacts. Let me show you. Okay, so for on account ACC and accounts of the related contact, and then ACC is having number of contacts field, right? For each of the account, the number of contact field has to be populated with ACC dot. We are able to get all the contacts of that related contact, right? Within this contacts, the inserted contact also will be there. So the total contacts list will be there in this query. So, or in this list. So we'll just get that ACC dot contacts. By using this ACC dot contacts variable, you can actually get the list of contacts related to that particular account. Dot, as that is a list, we have the size method. By using that size, we will be able to get that size. So by using this contacts list and this size, we are able to find the count of that complete contacts for that related account. So by using this, we were able to assign that value into number of contacts. As once we are assigned this value to number of contacts, we are very much done. We just need to update this list. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. Update ACC's list. Okay, and then voila, we are done. Let me explain it again. Whenever a contact is inserted, so that will be there in trigger.new. We are assigning that contacts account ID into an set. Okay, we are querying the account ID by using that set values, and not only that account, we are also finding all the contacts related to that account. If we were able to find accounts and all its contacts by using the size method, we were able to find the size or the count of the contacts and assign to the respective variable or respective field on the account. And then finally we have done the update and then done. So this is how you can calculate this. So let us see whether it is working as expected. So let me go back and then we'll search this one. Okay, so let me create a new account for this first. So for this, I will create a new account so that it is easy for us to test. Okay, so test count demo, and then I will leave all the values as is. By default, the number of contacts value will be empty, right? Is 0 or empty. Okay, now whenever a contact is getting inserted, the count has to be incremented. Let us see that. So give some values, test 1 2 3, and then click on save. Now we check that number of contacts field that has to be incremented by 1. You see, now if I add one more contact, that count has to be increased again. Test and save. Now we have two contacts inserted, hence that value should be number of contacts 2. So I will add one more and then we'll see the next scenario. Okay, and save. And then details. And if you see, number of contacts is 3. And this is how you can write your trigger to update your number of contacts field. Now scenario number 2. So for whenever a contact is inserted, we have written our logic to update the number of contacts. In the same way, whenever we delete a contact, the count has to be reduced to 2, right? So let's say account X is having 3 contacts. So earlier the value would have been 3. So whenever contact 3 is deleted, the count has to be reduced to 2, isn't it? Because as this is deleted, the total number of contacts is 2. Very simple. So Qboy, tell me what is the conclusion here? I will answer this. Whenever contact is getting deleted, we need to decrement the value on account record number of contacts field. Hence, we need to write our logic in contact trigger on after delete operation. Exactly. Let's look into that. Let's come back to Salesforce. So far we have seen whenever a new contact is inserted, the count used to reflect accordingly. So whenever a contact is deleted, obviously the count has to be decremented, right? So let's say if we delete this contact, so let me click on this. Let me click on this and then click on edit and then delete. Then the contacts count has to be decremented too. However, it will not because we haven't written the logic yet. So that's what we are going to do now. So let's go back to developer console again. The implementation will be very much same. So before that, as this is an after delete event, so as per the scenario, we have concluded that this has to be written in after delete event. Like we have done for after insert, we also need to write block for after delete. So trigger dot is after and trigger dot is delete. Okay. However, the logic would be pretty much same as this. Okay. So what I would do is I will try to get the for loop of the deleted record first. Okay. So for contact con, and instead of trigger.new here we need to write trigger.old. Okay, so in after delete you will not have trigger.new or trigger.new map. You will only have trigger.old and trigger.old map. So which events will have trigger.old, trigger.new is something which I have discussed in the previous video, but let me give you a quick hint here. Whenever you are inserting or adding new data into Salesforce, then trigger.new will be available in that event. Let's say you're doing an insert operation, right? Whenever you're doing an insert operation, basically you're providing some new values into the system. That is the reason trigger.new will be available. Okay. So while you're inserting, there will not be any existing values on that particular record. Hence, there will not be trigger.old in that. When it comes to delete, you are trying to delete the existing data of a particular record. Hence, as there is an existing data, trigger.old will be available. You are not providing any new values on that delete operation, correct? Hence, that is the reason you will not have trigger.new in after delete or delete events. So we have contact and then we are running loop on trigger.old, and we need to find the account IDs respectively. So we'll create the set same as the before scenario, set ID, ACC IDs, new set, and then ID, and done. So we just need to add this set with each of the contacts account ID. So add method and then con.account ID. Now we have all the account IDs which are for which the contact is getting deleted. Okay. Now we need to query the same. So we'll just copy paste it. We'll query all the accounts which are matching with that account ID. Okay. And it will also find the respective contacts. Let's say one contact is deleted. Rest of the contacts under the same account will be there in this contact list. Okay. So we got the account. Now we need to run the for loop on that particular query and then update the number of contacts. So this is also same as the previous step. So let me click on for and then account ACC accounts of the related contact which is getting deleted, and then ACC dot number of contacts field has to be ACC dot so accounts related contacts. Okay, so it has to be ACC dot contacts which will get the list of contacts associated with that account. As this contact is deleted, the remaining contacts under that same account, if there are any, will be there in this list. So we can find the list size by using size operator. So we are done with this particular assignment of number of contacts with the contact size. And finally, we need to do the update operation like we have done before. So this is how whenever a contact is getting deleted, it will come into this after delete if block. That's the reason we have written this context variables. If we are doing after insert option, that will go in here. So as this is delete operation, trigger.old will be having the deleted record, and that contacts account ID we are storing it in a set, and then finding all the account, that account and the related contacts of. Let's say a contact has been deleted, other contacts within that account will also be fetched here. And then we are running loop on that account, and then finally we are assigning the contact size to the number of contacts, and finally doing an update. So this is how you need to write your logic on after delete operation. If you see 99% of the code on after insert and after delete is matching except for trigger. This is trigger.new and this is trigger.old. That is the only difference. Rest of it is very much same. Let's test this out. So for this also we will create another account and then we'll test this one. Click on new, test, count, demo 2, and then click on save. By default number of contacts will be empty. So I'll create a contact first. Click on new. So by clicking on new by creating a new contact, the count will be increased based on our previous logic. Okay, I will create one more contact, and then if I see this number of contacts, the size is 0. Now if I delete one contact, the count should get reduced. Click on delete, and if I go back delete, and then if you see number of contact is 1 now. Again, if I go back to related list and then delete the other record also, now the count should be 0. Click details, see if the count is 0. And if I insert one more contact, the count will be incremented with the first scenario, like the first scenario logic. Click on save. See, this is how you need to write your logic on after insert and after delete operations. Now comes scenario number 3. So far we have seen whenever a contact is deleted or inserted, we have updated the count accordingly, right? Now, in this scenario, for account X, if we reparent contact 2 from account X to account Y, which means we have the ability or we have the option to reparent, right? In Salesforce. So when this reparenting of contact 2 has been done from account X to account Y, the counts of each account record has to be updated accordingly. Earlier the value is 2 here on account X, right? Because contact 2 is associated with this account X, and contact 1 and contact 2 both are associated with X. That's the reason it is having 2. Account Y doesn't have any contacts. However, after reparenting, the counts has to be updated accordingly, saying that account X is having only one contact, so the number of contacts is 1. And account Y is having one contact and the number of contacts. Again, I will answer this. Whenever contact gets reparented, we need to decrement the value on account record 1 and increment the value on account record 2 on number of contact field. Hence, we need to write our logic in contact trigger after update operation. So we understood that it's an update. Why? Because whenever contact is getting updated, we need to write our logic. So we understood that it's an update operation on contact trigger. How we have decided whether it is after or before. So remember the thumb rule, if you want to pre-populate the existing record or you want to throw an error based on the existing record's data, then you need to use before event, else you need to choose after event. So in our scenario, we're actually trying to update account record, not the contact record. We are trying to update the account record associated with that contact. Hence, it will fall under after category. So the conclusion is contact trigger after update operation. Now let us come back to Salesforce again. So if you see, we have one contact under this account, right? Test contact demo one, where it is having one contact. And if we see that field, the number of contact size is 1. Let's say if we open this contact and reparent the contact name from demo2 to some other account. So let me show you that. So let me open this contact. So currently it is being associated with demo2. Let's say if I reparent this particular value or particular account from a demo2 to a demo, then the count in demo has to be increased and the count in demo2 has to be decremented by 1. Right? That is what we are going to do now. The count of first account 1 has to be reduced and account 2 has to be incremented. Let's check that out. So let me open developer console, and as you already know, this is on after update event. So we just need to write after update. So this is little tricky when it compares to after insert and after delete, but that doesn't mean it is tough. It is really easy to. It's having 1, 2 more statements, except that everything is easy. So trigger dot, like we have done for after delete and after insert, we need to write our if blocks accordingly. After trigger dot is update. Okay. Now what happens is we need to find account IDs of previous value of that contact and the new account ID of that contact. Let's say you have changed the contact's account value from account 1 to account 2. So both account 1 and account 2 value has to be captured here in ACC IDs. Only then we find the respective accounts and then update its value accordingly. So what I would do is we'll write the same query. In here, for in update operation, we'll have both trigger.new and trigger.old also. The reason is in update operation, you're actually updating the existing data to new data and you're also providing new data also, right? That's the reason you're working on existing data or like existing data is already there. That's the reason it is having trigger.old. And you're also providing some new values. That's the reason trigger.new will also be available. Okay, so trigger.new. Now we need to create set like we have done here. Set ID and ACC IDs, okay, and new set. So far we got this. Now ACC IDs we need to find and keep our contact account ID. So let's say you have changed contacts account ID from account 1 to account 2. So the latest value will be there in that trigger.new. Okay, so ACC IDs dot add con.account ID. Okay, let's say contacts account changed from account 1 to account 2, then con.account ID will have latest value, will have latest account ID, which is account Okay. Now we are getting that account value and then we are keeping in this ACC IDs. However, we also need to find or like need to capture account ID which has been overridden. Let's say the account ID one here. So this one also has to be captured. As I said, the new values will be stored in trigger.new and the old values will be stored in trigger.old. So we have old map and new map also. By using that old map, we can find this account one quickly. So let me show that to you. So for that, we will create an instance old values on that contact. Okay. So how you will get it? We have something called trigger.old map. So in this old map, we'll have all the contacts. So trigger.old map will have the old values of that contact. We need to fetch it. Old map will, let's say you have inserted 10 records, all these 10 records will be there. So you need to only find the respective contact which is there in this loop. So we need to use the get operator and then you can provide the contact ID. Old map and new map or new or old map will be having same IDs because IDs will not change in update operations because ID will never change. So old map dot get operator you can use contact ID. So by this the value of that contact entire contact records old values will be stored in this particular variable. Now by using this variable's account ID we can fetch this previous value of that account ID. So which is account 1. Now we will add that account ID into this ACC IDs. ACC IDs dot add old values on that contact, which is the contact instance of which is having old values, account ID. So this statement will have contacts old account value, which is in this case account 1. So by using this statement or like by end of this query, ACC ID will be having the new account value that user has provided and the previous account value which your user has overridden. So if user change the contact account value from account 1 to account 2, then account 1 record and account 2 record IDs will be stored in this ACC ID. Now we need to query it again, the same thing which we have done. So I will just copy paste it. So it's like we are querying the account and related contacts using that ACC ID. So this will fetch both the account records and their contacts. And we just need to do the same drill. We just will copy the for loop again, or like I'll just type it rather account ACC. So earlier will be only having one contact. Now we'll have two contacts, and the loop of it will looping on that account and then updating the contact size. It's pretty much same. It's pretty much same. Dot number of contacts equal to ACC dot this contacts dot size operator and then that. So ACC contacts will be having the respective contacts as this is an after insert as this is after update operation. This contacts will be having the updated values, updated contacts, and then the size, and then finally we just need to update the list. Update ACC of the related contact and voila. I think we are done with this after update. Now we can test this out. So before we test, I will explain it to you again. So it's the same thing. We are actually we just whenever after update, whenever an update is happened, we need to find the previous account value and the new account value. So why? Because we need to update two accounts. The reason is, let's say contact has been reparented from account 1 to account 2. Account 1 number of contact value has to be changed and account 2's number of contacts has to be changed. So that's the reason we need to find both the account IDs of account 1 and account 2. So that we have done in this for loop and we have just queried those two accounts in this query and along with its contacts. So for each of the account we are just finding the contact size and then putting it into the respective field. And finally we are doing an update. So let's test this out. So click on this one. So we already have, let me go back to accounts. So these are existing accounts which doesn't have consistent values. Let me create new accounts and the new contacts associated with them. So test 1 and save. So number of contacts would be 0 obviously. Now we'll create quick account, quick contact here, new, save. And if I see the details, the number of contacts is 1. Okay, let me create another contact. So this is because of after insert logic that we have written. So we have two contacts on account 1. Okay, I will create account, new account, okay, which will be test 2. So new test2 and then click on save. Now test2 is currently having 0 contacts. Let me create one more contact or one contact on this one. Yeah, now we are good. So test account 2 is having one contact and first account or like test1 is having two contacts. Now what I would do is I will reparent this particular contact from test2 to test1. So what should happen? The expected result would be this is currently showing value 1, right? Now this should get 0 because I'm reparenting this from this account to this account. So this will have that this should have the new contact. So the count has to be incremented with 3. So two accounts has to update its value. So let me reparent this one. Open this contact details, and then if I reparent it, so account from test2 to test1. Okay, test2 to test1. Click on save. So now what should happen is that if I open this test1, as we have reparented it, so test1 is having 3 contacts, and the previous account which is having the test2, as it has lost its contact, it should display 0. So in the same way, I will just reparent another contact from this one to that one. So currently it is having 3. So this should get 2. Currently the value here is 3. Now if I change this value, if I reparent this from here to there, this value should get 2, and there the value should get 1. So if I go back here, currently it is 0. Now it should get 1. So I will just reparent this one of the contact, edit, instead of test1, I will make it to test2 and then click on save. So currently it is showing 2 contacts here. Let's see whether it is reflecting properly here. Refresh this page. See 2. If I go back here, as I have reparent that value here, that contact here, the number of contacts has to be 1 here. Now, you see 1. So this is how whenever you're reparenting it, you need to update that record, that account, and this account also. This is how you need to do it. Here comes the next scenario. Account X is currently holding contact 1, which means the number of contacts will be 1 on account record, correct? Now, let's say contact 3 has been deleted, which was associated with account X. However, after undeletion, it will get reassociated with account X now, and the number of contacts has to be incremented by 1 again. So, which means now, after it gets undeleted, account X will now have contact 1 and contact 3, and the number of contacts is 2. How you will achieve this? QBoy says he will answer this. Whenever contact gets undeleted, we need to increment the value on account record 1. Number of contacts field, yes. Hence, we need to write our logic in contact trigger on after undelete operation. Exactly. So this is how we need to do it. We need to write our logic in contact trigger on after undelete operation. We understood that restoring of record from recycle bin is basically undelete, so we need to choose undelete. In here, you really don't need to confuse whether it is before or after undelete. Why? Because there is only one undelete operation, which is after undelete event. Let's come back to Salesforce now. So whenever we delete a record and if you want to undelete it, let's say we have two contacts, right? So let me go to the details and it is two contacts. Now, if I delete this record from this particular account, what should happen? The account will get decreased and it will go, that record will go into the recycle bin. So let me refresh this page. So the count will be decremented here. So the contact has been taken out from this account. And if I see the count has been decremented by 1 and the result is 1 here. So if I go back to the recycle bin, I should be seeing that particular contact. So here you see this is the contact I just deleted. Now if I undelete this contact, it will again go back to that particular account. So let me click here and then restore. So the contact size was, the account number of contact size was earlier 1. Now if we go back to that account again, click on that test, and this is the contact that we have restored. However, if I click on the details and then refresh this page, the count was 1, right? Let us see if it is getting reflected. The count is still 1. The reason is we haven't written any logic for that, right? So whenever deletion happens, we are decrementing the value. However, whenever the record is being restored from recycle bin, we still need to have the logic to update this number of contacts, right? So that is something which we are going to see now. So let me click here and then go back to developer console. And as we have done for other events, we need to do this for this event also, which is after undelete. Okay. Now, if we go back here, we need to write our if block like we have done for previous scenarios. So trigger dot is after and trigger dot is undelete. Okay. Now we can have this thing very easy. The reason is, so whenever a record is being restored from recycle bin, it is again being inserted into Salesforce. Okay. Basically, we are trying to a kind of like we are creating the record again, right? From but we are not giving that directly. It is getting it from recycle bin. So the logic would be pretty much same as insert operation. So let us scroll down and we'll just copy paste what we have written in insert operation. So go back here and then put it here. So like in insert operation, we'll not have trigger.old. As with undelete operation is basically inserting a new record from recycle bin, trigger.new will be available. So whenever a record is being restored from recycle bin, trigger.new will be having that record, and we have that account ID, and we are querying that account ID along with its contacts and query running loop on that account, and then getting that contact size and then updating the number of contacts field. And finally, we are doing an update operation. Undelete operation is working the same way as insert operation. We really don't need to change single line of code. Okay, so let us save this and see whether it is working as expected. So let me open some other account, scroll down, and then let me open any other account. So test2. So if I see there is one contact here, and if I see the number of contacts, it is 1. If I delete this particular contact, the size would be 0 now. That is something which we'll check first. ASDFAF is the contact name. So I deleted the contact. If I go back here and refresh this page, the size has to be 0 now. You see, the size has been 0. Now if we go back to recycle bin and undelete that record or restore that record, we'll see whether that count is being get updated. So recycle bin. So this is the record that we deleted it. If I click this one and click on restore, the expectation here is the SDF contact has to come here and number of contact size has to be changed to 1. So refresh this page and the contact will be restored here and check the size now. See, number of contacts is set to 1. So this is how undelete operation is working same like insert operation. So we just copied the code and then done. So this is how you have to write your logic. So whenever contact is inserted, whenever contact is updated, whenever contact is deleted, whenever contact is undeleted, to update the accounts number of contacts field respectively. This is how you can create a roll-up summary field for count. Okay, here he comes again. How to find sum of amount value on account record for all its associated contacts. So Rollup summary, so far we have done count of contacts, right? Now this is sum of a particular field here, amount value on contact. So to understand this scenario, we need to create a custom Rollup summary field on account object, which is sum of amount. We also need to create another field on contact object, which is amount field. Now, whenever a contact is created, contact one is created here with amount value 100, we need to sum up that value and then display that in account record. Now let's say contact 2 is created with a different amount value, which is amount equal to 50. Now it has to sum up both contact 1 amount and contact 2 amount and then display it on account record, which is sum of amount equal to 150. So as in the previous scenario, we have number of contacts, which is 2. It will be doing its job. Now we need to write another logic or trigger where we need to calculate the sum of both the contacts or all the child records and then put that value in the number of contacts field on account record. Hence, the conclusion would be on every contact creation, calculate sum of amount values on child contacts and assign it to the sum of amount field on account record. So the object would be contact and we need to write trigger on after insert event. To do that, we'll come back to Salesforce. Now we need to create one field on account to calculate the summary value of that sum and one field on contact to have that amount field. So we'll click account, edit object. So on account, we'll create sum of amount field. So fields, this is an account object. So click new and scroll down and it should be a number field. Next. And it should be a sum of amount field on contacts. Okay, and then click on next. Have the default values as is. So click on next and then save. Now we'll try to do the same on contact object. That should be an amount field. So scroll down and then contact. Yeah. And then click on fields and new field. And it should be amount field on contact amount. Next, next, save. So we have account object, account record where we have created sum of here, sum of amount field contacts. In the same way, let's check the contact field. Amount field on contact. So scroll down and there should be an amount field, refresh, amount field. So let's say if we have 5 contacts, all the amount values on 5 contacts has to be added and then it has to be displayed on account. So to do that, we'll again have to go to the trigger. And the advantage here is we already have written around 80% of the code for this as well. So on after insert, so let's check the after insert logic. So in the after insert event, what we are doing here, so we are trying to find the account ID and then we are actually calculating the size and then putting into number of contacts, right? So on contacts, we have created amount field, correct? Amount field. And on account, we have created sum of amount field. And the field is, and here the field on account is sum of amount on contacts, okay? So this value has to be populating the total amount values of all the child contacts. Here, this is really easy actually. If you just add one more for loop here, this is actually done. Let me show that to you. So let's create a for loop. It is really easy. We just need to loop through all the contacts which are associated with that account. So acc.contacts will have the list of all the related contacts of that account. Now for each of the contact, we have this amount field. We'll just need to iterate through all these contacts and then add all these amounts and then we'll put it in one variable. That variable will declare that as decimal. Decimal sum of all amounts on amounts equal to 0. So now sum of all amounts is equal to sum of all amounts plus we just need to give the contacts amount value. Contacts amount value. And then done. So we have our sum of amount value will be calculated with all the amount value of that related contacts. We just need to put that in the accounts field value, which is sum of amounts contact equal to this variable. And then we are done. So whenever a contact is inserted, it will come into this after insert and we are finding the respective account ID of that contact and we are getting all the related contacts along with their amounts from that account using this query. And then once we have that account record, we are looping through all the account records and then getting the related contact size and then putting into number of contacts. This is something which we have done. So as we have only having the contacts list, we are looping through all these contacts and we're looping and then finding the amount value and then putting into a single variable, and that variable we are just associating into this account sum of amounts contact field. Now we are updating the account and then finally that should display sum of amount value properly. So let us try that whether it is working properly or not. So let's go back to Salesforce and then we'll create a new account for this one. Okay, so it is easy for us to test. So test some demo. Okay, and then click on save. So this account is having sum of amount value 0, I mean empty, and number of contacts 0. Okay, now we'll try to create one contact with some value. So give some value and then last name some value and then scroll down and give amount value as 100 and then click on save. Now one contact is having and we have amount value 100, so it should be calculated here. You see, so both of them got calculated. Let us do for another contact again. Click on new, another contact, and then click on give the amount value again and I will give 100 again. So 2 contacts and 200 values, so total should be 2 and 200. See, this is how you can do the sum of values whenever a new contact is inserted. Now if we delete a contact and then the sum has to be reduced with the amount of the contact record that got deleted. Which means currently we have two contacts, right? And sum of the amount is 150. If we delete contact 2, as per the previous flow, the number of contacts will get 1. Now the sum of amount has to be reduced to 100. Why? Because the only contact will be contact 1 and the amount is 100. So the sum of the amount would be 100. So for this account, we have two contacts. Each of them are having 100 as the amount. That's the reason we have 200 here. Let's say we have deleted one of the contact here. Then the amount value, sum of the amount value has to be decremented to 100 here. So for that, we need to write our logic again. And the advantage here is it is the same logic or like the same for loop that we need to just into in our delete operation also. So if I say these 4 lines of code that we have written in after insert, copy, and then if we do that in here, and then you know what, we are done. We have done with this implementation. So that's how it is. See, writing triggers is really easy. So what happens is whenever a record is getting deleted, the record deleted contact will be there in this trigger.old. So we are trying to find the respective account ID of the deleted contact, and we are trying to find all the contacts along with all the contacts of that account, and then we are trying to run for loop on that account. However, we just need to add the fuse here like we have done here. So copy the query also, this one, and we also need to get the amount field. Yeah. So once we are done with this, we are looping through that account which is having the all the contacts, and looping through the contacts. Initially the sum value would be 0, and on contacts we are actually finding each of the contacts, and the amount value we are putting into sum of all amounts. So by the time the loop ends, that account's all contacts amount value will be summed up, and then this variable will be having that value. We are just putting that value in the sum of amount field on account object, and finally the update operation is doing the job to update both the number of contacts and the sum of amount also. This is how you need to write your logic to update sum of the amount and number of contacts whenever a deletion happens. Okay, so let me click on save and we'll test this out. Okay, so click here, go to Salesforce, and we have some amount equal to 200 and number of contacts is 2. Okay, so let me click on related. I will just delete this contact. So this contact's amount is at 200. So let me delete this one. Delete it. And if we go back to details and then see, sum of amount is 100. Let me delete the second one also and delete, and you see 0 0. That's how the logic works, and done. Now, if we reparent contact 1 from account X to account Y, then the sum of amount should be reduced in account X and has to be incremented in account Y. So let's say currently account X is holding contact 1 and the amount is 100. Okay. Now number of contacts will be 1 and sum of amount will be 100. If we reparent or take out this contact and the reparent to account Y, then what should happen is here the number of contacts will be reduced as per the previous flow, and sum of amount has to be 0 here, and sum of amount on account Y has to be 100 here. So for this scenario also, you really don't need to code again because we just need to do the copy paste for reparenting also. So what I would do is so let's copy paste this logic whichever we have written and then paste it in update operation. After update, wherever we are having the loop on account, just paste it here along with the fields. Copy, copy, comma, copy, paste. So I haven't written anything, I just copy pasted and then we are done. So whenever a reparenting happens, the previous account ID value will be there here and the current account ID value will be there here. So we are putting both those account IDs in ICC IDs and then querying all the accounts and its contacts with their amounts. So for each of the account, we are looping it. So for old account and new account, this loop will be there. And for each of the account, the respective contacts amount value will be calculated like this, and then finally we are putting that sum value into this field and we are doing the update. So this should work as well. So let us check that out. So we'll go back here and then quickly, so I will create two new accounts and then we'll test that out. Okay, so account 1 and then click on save. So I'll create quick contact on this one, and then the amount would be somewhere around 100. save. So for account 1, we have one contact where number of contacts is 1 and sum of amount is 100. So I'll create another account, similar account, and we'll see how that, we'll see another account 2 and then save. And we'll create one contact under this account also, account 2, and then give amount as 50 and then click on save. Now we have two accounts where one account is having one contact with 100 value, where the second account is having one contact with 50 value. What I would do is I will just reparent accounts one contact to account 2. Then what should happen? Accounts 100 has to be 0 and number of contacts will be obviously get 0. And here account 2, the number of contacts should be 2 and sum of amount will be 150. Okay, let's see whether it's working as expected. So go to related and then delete this, sorry, reparent this to, instead of account 2, it should be account 1 to account 2. Click on save. Now if I refresh this page, account 1 should be having 0 contacts now and the amount also should be 0. See, both of them 0. If I go to account 2 and refresh this page, the current values are 1 and 50. After refreshing, it has to be 2 and 150 because of that reparenting. See, 2 and 150. So that's how reparenting updating logic works. Like we have done in the previous scenario, we also need to check whether undeletion is working as expected. So let's say we'll delete this record first. So in here, contacts number is 2 and the sum of amount is 150, right? So if I delete this particular contact and undelete it, still that should work. So that the count has to be restored as well. So for that, we again need to go back to a developer console. Like we have done before, we just need to copy paste the same logic and then put it in our undelete. So this is our undelete logic, undelete block. So we just need to put it here. So put here, and we also need to get the field names too here in the query. So in the query, comma, and then copy and then paste. Okay, and then save. So whenever undeletion happens, that undeleted record will be there in trigger.new, and then we are assigning that account ID into that ACC IDs. So we are querying all the contacts details of that particular accounts, and then we are running loop on that account, and then associating the number of contact size. Along with that, we are also trying to find with all the contacts amount value, and then putting into sum of all amounts variable, and finally giving that value, putting that value in the accounts field, and I'm doing the update. So this should work on undelete. So let's test this out. So click here, go back here. Now we'll delete this contact, which is having 100, I guess. Let me open this one. What is the amount value here? Amount value on this particular second contact is 50. Okay, let's delete this one. Delete this contact. If I delete this contact, and then if I go back to the details page, and then refresh this one, the count has to be 1 and the number of some value would be 100. You see, now if I go back to the recycle bin and refresh this recycle bin, the contact is ASF. This is the latest contact that we have deleted. If we restore this, that count has to be restored back to 150 again. So click restore and then go back to the account, and if carefully observe, the number of contacts should become 2 and the sum of amount value should be 150. So refresh this page, and see, so this is how the undeletion operation works as well. And if we go back to this code, so most of the code is actually repetitive, right? So whenever you write code, we have followed most of the standards, like we have followed the bulkification, we followed name standards, etc. However, we need to follow one more standard, which is we need to use trigger handler. So this is something which I have explained in the previous video. You can check that out. But let me copy, as most of the code is repetitive, we can just use trigger handler here. Okay. Not only now, whenever you write your triggers, always try to write it in trigger handlers. Trigger should never have the complete code logic. Trigger should always use trigger handler to put its logic. So I will just name that trigger handler as contact trigger handler. Okay, contact trigger handler. Trigger handler is nothing but a class or a methods which are being called from trigger. Okay, so I'll just create one method called public static void update account fields, and in here it should return list of contact list. Okay, so what I would do is we'll first go for insert operation. Whatever logic we have written for insert, we'll just cut this one, cut. Okay, and then we'll paste it here. Okay, but there is not every line is okay except for trigger.new. Trigger.new will not be available in obviously this trigger class. So we need to write this contact list here and then click on save. So we have one method which we have copy pasted from inside. We just need to call this method from that method. Okay, so contact trigger handler dot that method name. We need to pass the contact list. Contact list will be stored in trigger.new. So this is how the insert block has been done. Okay, as you have already seen, most of the code is repetitive. We can use the same method for other two methods also. Let me do that. Okay, so click on save. So if you see the code which we have this, or like which it is there in insert, is very much same in delete and undelete also. Okay, so that's the reason we can actually completely take out this logic and then copy paste this one. Okay, because the logic in insert, delete and undelete is same, except we need to pass new in insert and undelete. Delete we need to pass old. Okay, so what I would do is just this is same code as that one, so I will just paste this one in, as this is undelete, trigger.new will be copied over. In delete we just will take this one out, same method, and in here we should pass trigger.old. Why? Because in delete there is no trigger.new, we just need to pass trigger.old. As the code logic is same for insert, delete and undelete, I am just using the same method, except I have sent parameters as trigger.new in insert and undelete event, but in delete event I have passed trigger.old. Okay, now we are done with three of those methods, and finally this method. This method I will write in a separate method. Okay, cut, and then here I will add one more method, public static void update account fields on update. So we need to pass list of contact, which should be contact list. We also need to pass map also here, ID and contact map old, paste. The reason I have passed two variables in the sense the copy pasted code, if you see trigger.new is something which is not available in this method, so it has to be passed from trigger. So, and we also need to have trigger.old map for this logic. So for these two, we'll be getting it from that, we'll be getting it from trigger. So we'll just paste it this one, and then this one I will paste it here. Okay. Yeah, I think we are good with this trigger handler. We just need to do that here. Paste contact trigger dot. Here it should be trigger dot new and this trigger dot old map. And then done. If you see, complete page has been refined. It's like a clean slate here. We just have 17 or like 19 lines in total. All the code logic has been pushed to a separate method. This can still be optimized. So always try to have your logic in trigger handlers only. I did not do it in trigger handler because it will be little confusing for you. And trigger handler is something which I wanted to do it at last so that you will understand how to optimize your code. Quick points to remember. Standard rollup summary fields can be created on parent object, which has master detail relationship with its child object. For objects which are sharing a lookup relationship, we need to do the custom rollup summary like we have done in our scenario today. Point 2. Count, sum, min, max are the calculations we can do on standard rollup summary. Average is not part of it. For average, we can also do the logic in Apex triggers, and we can also do that in flows as well. Third point is rollup summary on lookup can be done using Apex triggers and flows, but flows doesn't have undelete operation at this point of time. It might come in future releases. Point 4. Standard rollup summary limit is 25. for a object. It can be extended to 40 at max if we raise a Salesforce request. And that's the wrap up. If you have any questions, comment down below. Practice, 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 and bye.